Okay, good afternoon, everyone. I'm attorney Marwan Porter, and I've been hired to represent the family in the estate of Michael Hughes, who was gunned down about a week ago on March the 30th. You know, the reason why this is a problem is because a simple, nonviolent domestic dispute should not equal someone's death sentence. This is an individual who had known mental problems. He was suffering, from mental illness. But Mr. Hughes, Michael Hughes, was a nice guy. And on this particular day, he was having a domestic dispute with his girlfriend, who called the police to come and intervene and to de-escalate the situation, to calm it down. Little did she know that this domestic dispute would end in his death. And we as a community, we have to figure that out. We know that mental illness is prevalent in America and in the world. And you have to deal with it. We probably all have family members who suffer from it. I know I do. And it can be tough dealing with someone who has mental illness. But you have to understand where they're coming from. You have to understand that everything ain't clicking the way it's supposed to be clicking, and you have to be patient with them, and you have to go into it with a plan. Otherwise, it is going to end bad because they're not making decisions on logic anyway. There's paranoia. They think there's ghosts around. They think people are trying to hurt them. They think people are talking about them. It's a problem. They have a mental illness. So when you have these type of situations, you have to go into the situation understanding that. So I bet you what JSO is going to say in this situation is, oh, well, he became aggressive, or he reached for a taser. Michael Hughes had a mental illness. He wasn't robbing a bank. He wasn't raping somebody. He wasn't committing a murder. He wasn't doing anything violent. He had an argument with his girlfriend and now he's dead. And so what we are calling for today is a transparent investigation. The family has hired me to investigate it, and we will investigate it. And what we want is a release of all of the surveillance. Any body cams, any dash cams, any footage that was taken by the motel. We want it. That's very important. In these cases, one of the biggest problems with these cases is that, and luckily we have video, we have dash cam, because for many, many years we didn't. So it was all he said, she said, and typically speaking, it would end in favor of law enforcement for understandable reasons. But what we do realize is not everybody is good and not everybody makes proper decisions. The problem we now face is that they don't release surveillance for years. I have cases right now where surveillance of an actual shooting has not been released, and it's over 2 years. Why is that a problem? It's a problem because these cases come with a statute of limitations. And for those who don't know what that is, that means you only have a short amount of time to determine whether or not you're going to bring an action. Well, these people don't know that. So when they finally figure out that something was done wrong, a lot of the times it's too late for them to even proceed. So they just have to live with the loss. And that's not acceptable. So we are asking for a transparent investigation. We want a release of all the body cam footage, the dash cam footage, and any surveillance that was taken from a hotel. And we want people to remember that a nonviolent domestic dispute should not equal someone's death sentence. It just shouldn't. That's crazy. So we know that we need training so that our officers, and we love our officers, but our officers have to make proper decisions, and the training has to be proper so this does not continue to happen. His girlfriend is here with us today. Okay? They had a dispute. They love one another. They were in a relationship for years. All right, she is here with us today, along with his father and some of his sisters. Okay, I'm going to bring up my partner, Broderick Taylor, to talk a little bit about why this is a problem. You know, the number of shootings that we have police oriented in Jacksonville, and what, you know, what the statistics show and what needs to change in order for us to fix this.
The fact is, this has become a huge problem. Broderick Taylor. It's become a huge problem.
They set it up for me.
Okay. In Jacksonville alone, this year, 2021, we're barely in the month of April, and we've already had 3 police officer-involved shootings. 2020, we had 16 officer-involved shootings, and the year before that, we had 11. We need transparency. We need to be able to see these videos, not just the body cam, but dash cam videos. As Marwan said, they have been taking a year to 2 years to provide that information to us, especially in this situation where we have an officer who's been on the force about 2 years. We need some information how a domestic dispute, non-violent dispute, ends in the death of Michael Hughes.
So right now we're going to have, you know, as family members probably want to say a couple words, you know, so you have his father, you know, Tim Hughes, and some of his relatives. I'm not sure who you guys want to speak. You want to go, Tim?
My name is Timothy Hughes, and I drove down here from Charlotte to try to get some understanding on what happened to my son. I like to see the footage from the officer body cams, and from the hotel, and from the videos that the police had taken. And I also like to know why they shot my son, my only son, in the face, and in the stomach, and in the chest, and in the butt. I also like to know, why did the police take the footage from the motels and the backup footage from the motels? I want to see them. I want to see what they did to my son. And I also like to know why the police have 2 tasers, 2 pepper sprays, and 2 batons, but they couldn't arrest one black man with no violence and no weapon. I'd like to know why they couldn't arrest one black man having all those things under their arsenal. These are some things I would like to know. And I'd like to see the footage while my son was alive, to the time he was alive and to the time he laid on the ground with blood coming out of his head and out of his stomach. They shot him in the face. They shot him in his heart, and they shot him in the stomach, and they shot him in the butt. I want to see the footage from all these things, that I may have some closure for my son. My only son, the only one I ever had. Those of you that have children might understand the police taking your only child, your only son from you. Maybe some of you will understand. I don't understand why they could do such a thing to a man that was unarmed and had problems. He wasn't violent. He didn't assault no one. He didn't have no weapon, no gun, but yet they shot him in his heart and in his stomach and in his butt. I like to see the footage while my son was alive to the time up till they took his life. Thank you.
My name is Dawn Johnson. I am Michael Hughes' girlfriend. Right now, I don't know how to deal with anything. It wasn't supposed to go that way. It never was supposed to go that way. I miss him so much. For one, I was there in the beginning. I know that Michael Hughes never said, "I'm gonna kill you, I'm gonna kill you." So for those who are on the news saying that, that is a lie. And I want body cam too. And footage as well. I want to know why then the other officer, if Michael was such a threat, did not pull his taser or his gun. Why did they have to shoot him so many times? Or why was it a kill shot? Why couldn't he shot below the waist if he wanted to stop him? I never knew that when I opened the door and I called police for help, that this is what was gonna happen. I never wanted my son's father to die, the love of my life to die. We had our issues, we argued, things were frustrating, but I love that man, and he loved me. He's got 2 little boys that are fatherless. His family don't have him no more. I would never see him really grow. He had his issues, but he was a good person. He was a really good person. And I miss him so much. You just don't know. Now I feel guilty because I called the police for help. Now I feel like I can't trust police who are there supposed to protect and serve. How can we say that when you're out here murdering people, whether they're black or white? Nobody deserves that.
So as you could see, you know, this family is in immense pain. And they bring up some very, very valid points that I didn't even think of. Why shoot him so many times? Why not use your pepper spray? Why not use your own taser? Why think of the most lethal weapon you have in order to stop and prevent a non-violent domestic dispute? It's a problem. It's a problem. And I represented to this community that when I come here, I'm going to serve the community. I'm going to be the people's champ. And anytime something like this happens, we're going to address it. Black, white, or anything in between.
Mr. Porter, could you clarify specifically which video sources you're looking for? You had said dash cam, then motel cam. We just kind of want to understand specifically what you're talking about.
So my understanding is that the officers had body cams. My understanding is that there were dash cams. And my understanding is that there is hotel surveillance.
Dash cams from the cruisers, from the police cruisers?
Yes. And whatever we may not know about. And the news and everyone should be concerned about this. If everything was done right, if everything was done according to proper protocol and procedure, great. But if it was done wrong, then let's correct it. But I'll tell you what's not going to happen on my watch is it's not going to not go unaddressed. We are going to address this every time. And I want the news and I want the community, anytime there is a police involved shooting, I want everyone to ask for surveillance. Let's see it.
Have you been in touch with JSO yet about this, and what's your response been if so?
We've been attempting to get in touch with them. We have no response yet. And we're going to continue.
You said that he, quote, wasn't doing anything violent. The day of the shooting, JSO said he became combative and wrestled or fought with 2 of the officers, taking one of the officers' tasers and using it against him. What other force beyond maybe using a weapon you mentioned at the time? But if police are shoot to kill, they're trained to shoot to kill. What recourse then do they have?
So again, let's take it in phases. There was nothing violent going on between Mr. Hughes and his girlfriend, Dawn, when they were called out. Let's start there. This wasn't someone in the midst of robbing a bank and holding individuals hostage. Let's start there. Okay, that's number one. Now, when the police got there, he had mental illness. An altercation could have ensued. He felt that he was living at this particular room at the time. He was living there. This is where he was staying. Okay, now they're trying to remove him from the only shelter that he knows. Was there an altercation? Probably. But we want to see what that is. But altercations with police officers happen every day. Okay, they don't result in death every day. So the question is, was there a better tactic? Could they have called backup? Was it such a threat that at that point in time, they had no choice but to engage? Why didn't they call some other people? Why didn't they implement any type of de-escalation tactics? So at some point, was there an altercation? Probably. But the question is, why did all of that happen? Why does it lead to an altercation where it becomes deadly over a domestic dispute? I mean, we have to go to the root of the problem. Let's go to the root and say, what is it that this person was doing that led to this situation? You can't just look at the, at the final product and say, oh, well, he was wrestling with the cop and he's dead, so live with it. Too bad. He had mental disease. I think you have to look at the totality of the circumstance and understand this was an argument. This was an argument.
If you're conducting your own investigation, then what do you have faith in JSO and the state's attorney's office of their investigation?
We think that, that an independent investigation, and our history has taught us that independent investigations are always important to do, for whatever reason. Okay, I'm not going to express any type of impropriety on JSO or anybody. But if you look at the George Floyd trial that's going on right now, his rendition of what happened is much different than others' rendition of what happened. He's trying to save his life. He's trying to survive. He's trying to prevent himself from going to jail. So you would have to be naive to think that they're just going to fall on the sword and just tell the truth.
Do you have any comments on there's a photo that was circulating of him on the ground handcuffed after the fact? JSO, we asked them about it. They say he was handcuffed after he was shot to restrain him, which they say is normal procedure. Can you comment on that?
That's why we want to see the surveillance. That's why we want to see it. Was he indeed handcuffed after he was shot? Or was it before he was shot? We don't know. We want to see it. Because obviously, if it was before he was shot, that's a much different picture. And you didn't hear me say that, right? I didn't say that initially. I've heard that as well. And that's what we want to know. Because we're not going to cast aspersions for no reason. But we are not going to believe blindly either. If that's what happened, and they had no other choice but to use deadly force, well, there you go. So I'm not here to play judge or jury. I'm here to get the evidence so that we all could see whether or not what was done, was it proper and improper. And if it was proper, my hat is off to you, because we all want to be protected. But if it's improper, it needs to be corrected.
Are you planning any litigation or lawsuits at this point?
I'll tell you one thing. If he was shot when he was cuffed, oh yeah, I'm coming. So, but at this juncture, we don't jump out and say, hey, we're going to sue you, rah, rah, rah. We don't do that. We gather evidence, we gather facts, and then I have conversations, some of them tough, with my clients. Because if I believe that the officers acted in accordance with the law, no, you're not going to file a lawsuit from me. But if I find that something was done wrong, you're not going to only see me, you're going to see a whole lot of different people here as well.
Perhaps we can speak about it afterwards, but is there a photo of Mr. Ellis that we would be able to see?
Yeah, we'll get you some photos.
The state's attorney's office also last year announced revised plans of releasing body camera video within a 30-day. That was their hope. Have you spoken, I was asked if you've spoken to the sheriff's office. Has anybody from the state's attorney's office reached out to you or Don as well?
Not yet. And so, again, we're getting involved right now, and we are going to demand all of that. And we would implore the news to do the same thing. You know, again, if there's a problem, let's fix it. If everything was done correctly, that's fine. But you just heard this man's father. I have children myself. If someone takes your child's life, you want to see it. You want to have some closure that these individuals did the only thing they could do. That's easier to live with than just live with, I lost my own son and, you know, have a nice life. We're not doing that. No more. So every time one of these incidents happens, we are going to be here to help. To make sure that there is full accountability, right or wrong. Whether it's accountability for the victim or accountability for law enforcement. There needs to be accountability, and that's all we're asking for.
Let me just ask you then, and going off of that, if the investigation reveals that the officers were justified in their shooting, are your clients mentally, emotionally prepared for that outcome as well?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, listen, they lost a loved one over something, you know, that was trivial. You know, they're going to have to you know, swallow that and digest that. But they understand as well, as you see, they're very articulate, very thought out. They understood that Michael had some issues. And if the officers had no other choice but to protect themselves, they understand that. And so then the question is, okay, when we know that someone has a mental illness and we know we're going to run into a combative situation. So basically, at this juncture, the policy is if there's someone with a mental illness that more likely than not is going to act out or act in some, you know, strange way, or if they become physical, just shoot them. That's our policy. That's unacceptable. That's unacceptable. So we need to look at what the policies are, have training on that, and de-escalation. That's important. I think it's common sense. But the funny thing is people don't speak about it. We don't question authority and determine whether or not it's right. We have brains. We're people. It's the best gift ever. We have brains. We could think. And you could say, you know what? That doesn't really kind of add up. We don't like that. Or, yeah, that kind of makes sense. But we must critique the community and what it's doing so we can make it a better place for everybody to live.
My last question is for Mr. Hughes. You said you've driven down from Charlotte. Yes, that's obviously several hours. You had time to gather your thoughts. But how tough was that drive down here?
It was very tough, me thinking all the time what happened to my son. And like I say, I only want to see the footage of him alive at the time that he died. I just want to see the footage so I can have some closure, so I can feel better toward my son and myself. Because I know these things happen. They kill black young men all the time. It's not nothing new to me. I see it on TV about every day. It ain't new. But I'd like to see some closure in all the people that go through the things that I'm going through with. Thank you.
So we will keep you posted based on what we find out. You may see no more of me, or you may see a lot more of me.
Can you clarify the spelling of Dawn's name for us?
DAWNJOHNSON.
What are your next steps?
The next steps, we are going to continue to reach out to JSO and the DA. We're going to ask for a meeting with them so we and the family could review all the surveillance that they have. And once we see that, we'll determine what we do next. Thank you.